Anna and I met in the personal development world. We both did Landmark. We met over the phone, really. Was 2019, was it, Anne? And Anne held space for me, and we just became friends, and we supported each other over the years. I have to say, Anna supported me a great deal more. So we both decided to get together and have some conversation around health and well-being. So in my passion and my specialism as a self-awareness and emotional literacy specialist, I would love to have this conversation around awareness that drives behavior, that have consequences. So we're gonna have some conversations, some meaningful conversations about not only the root cause of mental health that is going on, but we really want to focus on the solutions. Really, I think solutions that we need really to talk about. So Anne, tell me a little bit about how did you get to where you are and become a mental health or a emotional, mental and emotional well-being expert? Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Okay, first of all, I wanted to thank you for giving me this opportunity and for us to create this opportunity to share and really get to the, as you say, finding solutions, because we can talk so much about things and so much is being said, but really ultimately, what does it really mean and what can we do on a day-to-day basis? How do we live? It literally how we are impacted on a daily basis. So my interest is very much around how can we have a good life, not necessarily a perfect life, but a good life is really where we can do the best we can, and just really, yes, have a good life, something balanced, that is a balance in our lives. So everything has really started. I've always been interested in personal development, in health and well-being, and I worked in a corporate world for many years, 20 years in the corporate environment as an HR. But my interest is really on mental and emotional well-being. It was I focused on that when I worked in the health and in the mental health. I worked for 10 years in the acute care services, the home treatment team in London, in a trust in London, and that was just an eye-opener. I really realized, I suppose, the suffering, what people go through, and being on the ward day in, day out, and really just seeing what people experience, and especially the team and the home treatment team, what they had to deal with. Yes. And so that was really, I call it an eye-opener, because being in the corporate world, I was quite protected. It was a private sector. I loved what I was doing. But literally, that's where my interest in mental and emotional well-being started. And then decided that coaching was something I wanted to do. And when we met in the, within Landmark, where we learned being human, taking responsibility. For me, yes, taking responsibility for our own lives. And as a teenager, I was a bit of an unhappy, rebellious, annoying teenager. But I came to London. Effectively, I ran away from home. I came to London to create my own life. And looking back, I did a lot. I've learned my lessons. And so really wanting to share, that's where we met and where we share so much about the books. We are both published authors. Yes. And around our own experiences, but we have dealt with it. So we are not victims of our past. We've learned our lessons, and we just want to share what does it really take to have a good life. Yes. And so that's where we are. So I just wanted to, say thank you for giving me this opportunity. And as you said, there is no script. There is no, that's what we want to do. just share and being authentic and vulnerable, so that we can pass on our experiences. And if people resonate, they will take it on. If not, that's fine as well, because we are all in different places, we follow different journeys, different stages.
Yes.
So it's really respecting our own individuality, and at the same time, really this keenness to wanting to share and contribute. So that's where we are.
Yes. And I'm really, really glad you touched on the point of responsibility, because it is all about personal responsibility. We can, there is no such thing as anyone healing anybody. It needs to be, it's a decision that a person makes that puts us on a journey. My own healing began when I was struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts. I lost my husband to suicide, and I was going down the same kind of route until I had a wake-up call and decided to take responsibility for my own healing, which, it's a long journey. And this journey to self-awareness and personal development is never ending anyway, which is great, because we know that we are limitless. Human beings are so creative, and we are limitless. We have unlimited potential. So in this conversation, what we talked about is that we're gonna kind of focus on the ABC of self-awareness. And in order for us to do that, we must start with awareness. So what is awareness as far as you're concerned? What can you tell me a little bit about awareness? What is it for you?
Yeah. I mean, for me, was the defining moment really was when, because I'm interested in personal development, I've always been interested in personal development, in professionally as well as personally. It all started when I realized about responsibility. I just said, I am responsible for my life. And not in a burden kind of way. I really realized that it's a privilege.
Yes.
Being able to say, gosh, I am responsible for my life. It's up to me. Clearly, the circumstances. And the awareness came, that was the starting point of my being aware. What does it really mean to be responsible? What does it really mean, my own life? And of course, being responsible and being able to say my actions, I take the actions. Okay, the circumstances may be difficult, whatever, but I am the one who's taking the action, or not taking the action. So the awareness of taking responsibility, taking action, and I was lucky. I was really, because my curiosity in a way led me to becoming aware of so many other things. So then from there, I started thinking, what does it really mean to be aware? Where does the awareness come from?
Yeah.
And, as we talked about, to me, there is an element of education, whether it's formal education or chosen education because of self-educating oneself. That's where the awareness comes from. And then also is curiosity. We are curious. We see the world, we see what's going on, and we want to be participating and being able to say, okay, how do we get here? And the curiosity of finding out what else is possible. For me, was this idea when, as a little girl, I was born in a very small village. And I knew that, even the early 50s, I just said to myself, but is that something else? So I was curious to find out. In fact, just sharing with you my experience. I remember as a teenager, I lived in a small village, and there were mountains up in the mountains. And I just said to myself, I wonder what is behind those mountains.
Wow, yes, curiosity, isn't it?
Curiosity, and that's really where so much of what I've done has started. There was that curiosity to say what else is available. So that was a personal curiosity. And then, of course, to me, the awareness when the wake-up calls, and especially during the, with experience both in the HR when I was working, and really the everyday life when people have wake-up calls. Something happens, whether it's a because of the burnout, or it's really you become aware of you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So that's when you start searching. There's a wake up call, something that wakes you up, really. So that's where we start becoming aware of what else is possible. How do you, again, the curiosity, how do you solve the problem that you are faced with? You are not, it was not planned, something happens. So that's really the awareness can come, you can become aware, coming from different sources, really. So
Yeah.
awareness is the starting point, the willingness, because awareness is also being willing to be, there is something else, to see that there is an alternative if you are not happy with what you have. So that's how I'll call awareness. Becoming aware is a big, big topic, but clearly we can narrow it down to.
Well, there are layers, isn't there? I think there are layers and layers and layers of what we can call awareness. Awareness, the absolute kind of awareness that I consider is like consciousness and everything that surrounds us, everything that created, whatever that is, that force, that vacuum, that void, some people call it, the void, the glow, whatever that is, that created a spark that went on to create everything else. But there are layers. And then it's really interesting that you talked about curiosity, because I think it's the curiosity that sparks that need for self-awareness. Because, so that has happened. How can I interpret that to make sense of my inner world? Because everything that happens around us impacts in how we interpret into our inner landscape. And then it's the discernment about, taking away what doesn't serve you, because we are bombarded with so much, education. Yes, education is part of awareness, knowledge, but we have to use discernment as well, because not everything that we learn might serve to each of us individually.
Yeah.
And we all, and the curiosity is a really great element that sparks that motivation to become more self-aware.
Yeah. And of course, the other important thing is the curiosity, but also establish where you are at now, because clearly there is so much going on, and being able to just say, okay, for me, for example, just this idea of thinking, okay, what is going on for me? Where am I at now with my, with my family, with everything? It's almost, I call it take stock.
Yes.
Just sit down and say, okay, take stock. Where am I? What is really going on here? And being able to, at whichever level, whichever way you can, just to say, what are the areas that impact me most, what concern me most, because we all have different concerns. Sometimes they are priorities, and being able to say, okay, where am I at now? What is it that matters the most? Yeah. And for me, for example, as the starting point where I was unhappy, was, where you are troubled, there is something not going the way you want it, and again, taking responsibility by saying what is going on, and being able to, and not being able to, but perhaps focus on different areas, because priorities and circumstances are different. We live in a society, we have our duties and our commitments, etc. So being able to assess what is really going on, what are our responsibilities. And once we can really get present, we can get thinking, okay, this is what's going on. Then when we say, I can't deal with everything at the same time, then being able to start, what is the most important, and really taking from there, taking a step at a time. So is, I know people who, for instance, they have their challenges, say, let's take one day at a time. So what is the most important thing? What do I know now about what to do, really? Is, as you say, becoming aware of what. So it's literally giving ourselves some direction or some little steps. We can't deal with everything at the same time. So becoming aware of what is most important and then expanding it and different levels.
100%, 100%. And, in today's world, everything happens so fast. We are bombarded with so much. It is crucial that we give ourselves permission to sit back and take stock and prioritize. Otherwise, otherwise it becomes really impossible to live that good life that you were talking about, because it's too much.
Yes. And it becomes overwhelmed. We become overwhelmed. And this is the overwhelmed that is being aware that we are overwhelmed. That is also very important.
Absolutely. The burnout. I had a burnout when I used to work as a school-based counselor, and in a school environment that it was really, there was so much going on, one student after another, and I just gave, and there came a point that I really became unwell, and I had a burnout.
Yeah. And in fact, this is such an important topic because, as part of my personal development, my learning and my development, in the latest interest, I suppose, has come from the heart math. As you know, I do the heart math.
Yes.
The heart math, where they've done so much research and it's very much around, the heart, just looking. And one of the things that they do talk about, which I really have paid attention to, is this overcaring. The overcare.
Yeah.
We want to give, we want to contribute, but sometimes we forget that by overcaring.
For us, yeah.
Yes. So to being aware, this is part again of the awareness, how we function, because we are givers. We give so much, but at the same time, you're thinking, am I giving something that I don't have? Almost. So it's becoming really learning to becoming aware of how we function, what we do automatically without really thinking, or just of course, you have someone who needs support, whatever, we give it. So becoming aware and being able to say no and create those boundaries.
Yes.
And so, what are our boundaries? And so all of this becomes under the umbrella of awareness, self-awareness. And so the overcaring is, I thought of it because you said it, and that was an instances where the burnout comes.
Yeah, I learned the hard way, but it was really interesting. I was having conversations with you when I became aware that my default mechanism was to say yes. I was just saying yes to everything. I'd have a phone call to go and do some work in this school. I'd say yes. I'd say yes here and say yes that. It was like, and I was just on this treadmill.
Yes.
Unable to identify, because you have this drive to make a difference and to give, but I've learned the hard way that I cannot give from a half full cup. I have to only give from a full cup. So I'm not giving on the detriment, on my detriment. I need to give when I have surplus to give, which is not impacting in my own well-being. And in this field that we are involved in mental health and well-being and emotional literacy and self-awareness and mentoring, coaching, it's crucial really that we put our masks on first, isn't it? Because otherwise we can't function to our optimal level. And so awareness is something that we have to practice all the time.
I mean, awareness is really something that just goes on. As you said, there are different layers.
Yes.
And you become aware of what's around you, and then you go to the next level and to the next level. And in a way, what you do, what I do, is literally asking people questions and really making them aware of things they're not aware of.
Mhm.
And you made me think of this. Think about, we do things automatically. We are reactive. We are educate. We are society expects us to do certain things. We don't question.
Mm.
So when we start questioning it, and one of the things that I always, not always, it's a question I ask when people thinking, oh, there is so much to do, I'm still overwhelmed, and this is what. And I just said, but are you operating from what we call inherited attitude or inherited way or past, because what we have been taught to do, or
Yeah.
are you creating your life?
That is gem what you just said there, because to go back to taking personal responsibility is how we create our lives, isn't it? So to really get the grips with becoming aware of things that we impact on others, how the world impacts on us, how what we do impact on our own well-being. And it works both ways as well, because when you are operating from a full cup, you give, but you replenish yourself at the same time, because you are making a difference, and that gives back to you. There is nothing more fulfilling, as far as I'm concerned, than to be a witness and a companion in a journey with someone who is taking personal responsibility. It's their choice to take personal responsibility, to embark on that road, on that journey to heal and deal with our traumas and make sense of everything. But there's nothing more rewarding than witness someone making changes and changing their perspective, being able to look at their challenges in a different way, and to hold space for people is just it's just so rewarding.
It is very much around for people to become aware of their own resilience,
Yes.
their own, how they, and being able to, you generate it, you create it. Because if you react, if there is the conditioning of the past, as we've already talked about, how we are conditioned by the society, the way we brought up, our circumstances. But once we become aware that it's a factor, and you're thinking, oh, hold on, I know what's happened, and you can actually recognize it. You just recognizing, being aware of what drives you, what gets you into it, and then being able to change mode to say, okay, this is what has happened, but I choose my way. I create. So it's the creating rather than reacting. It's just to create rather than reacting to what's happening. Is the creation, but it's a choice. You might take the same actions, but the way where you're coming from is different. And that is part of the awareness, part of really thinking, how do I operate? What is really going on? And by being and becoming aware of it, there might be no difference in the actions you take, but the way you react, the way you experience it.
Yeah, it's more about responding than reacting, isn't it? When you develop this sense of more becoming more aware and becoming more self-aware, with doing the questioning, the curiosity, and looking at things from a different perspective, then you realize that it's a daily practice, really. There is never ending, and it's a journey that personally I wouldn't once you know something, you can't unknow.
Exactly.
So once you know that it's we need to take personal responsibility over how we respond rather than react, because a reaction is something that is triggering you.
Of course.
So, but if you kind of embrace it in a different way and respond rather than react, then the whole thing can have a complete different outcome.
Yeah, and I think this is inherited and versus created. I think that is such a, to me, that's one of the questions and some of the conversations I have with my clients. They say, but are you reacting to something where you are not present? You don't really, you're not in control in any way. You're not creating. Whereas if you just stop and thinking, choosing, and then say, okay, this is, and you create it. So it's to me, this is a fundamental aspect of the level of awareness and just using it, because, clearly we all have our good intentions. And of course, you say, I'm going to do something, promise, you become aware, you do it, but then you fall into the trap again. So it's the practicing that something is slowly gradually, it doesn't come automatic, and you have to do it. It's really an ongoing process. It's not that say, oh, I've done it, I fixed it. No, you haven't fixed it, because what matters is
No.
what you do in that particular moment. In that, I think, I find myself thinking, I'm so aware of what I should not do or what my traps are. But when it comes to it,
Yeah.
I just fall into that trap, and that's the compassion. And you're thinking, okay, becoming aware that you fall into the trap again is that compassion that comes in. But
yeah, absolutely. So so in this conversation, the way I see it, I think, awareness is going to drive, it's going to be the thing, what connects our conversation, because next week or next time we get together, we're going to explore behavior. And behavior is driven by awareness anyway, so awareness is going to be our thread, and then we're going to add different concepts. We're going to add concepts to this conversation, and hopefully our listeners out there will take something from this conversation. So yes, so what you published a book as well. Can you tell us about what your book is called and where people can get your book, and what
okay, my book is called Defining Moments, Reclaim Your Power and Live the Life You Love. And it's
okay.
very much around, this awareness. And because there are things happen in our lives and we make decisions and we make choices, but then in a way we forget we made those choices. So being able to look and, really started from a very, very young age, and being able to realize that any upsets or anything that really disempowers us has an origin somewhere, has started somewhere. So
Yeah.
being able to not to relive or not to dwell into what happened to me, not as a victim, but to say, okay, something happened to me when I was young, or circumstances. What kind of decisions did I make? What kind of, and knowing that happened then is not happening now. So again, going back. So my book is very much around, my own experiences, and I invite the readers to look, and this is my experience. This is how I dealt with it. How would you deal with it? As a way of encouraging and becoming aware of what it impacted us, and what kind of decisions we made, but with intention. I mean, the book is called Defining Moments, Reclaim Your Power and Live the Life You Love.
Yes, amazing.
Because it's very much around how can we live the life that we love, the life that we choose. It's not easy, not necessarily easy, but we choose it. We have our own, we are empowered. And so that's my book. So I have written a book. I know that you also written a book. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about your book.
Yes, I have. Well, I wrote. Well, this is my real baby, Divine Soul, Sacred Body: From Suicide to Sovereignty, which is the book I released last year. I did another book called A Book About Us, Celebrating Diversity, which I'm gonna be working on another version, another edition. I also co-authored 2 other books, one for teenage girls, The Everyday Guide to Living in Truth, Self-Love and Acceptance, and She Speaks Her Truth, which I collaborated with other authors as well in the field of counseling and self-development. So yeah, I think you know, we're gonna have this conversation and share because it's we are human beings, and at the end of the day, we would like to offer some wisdom, some solutions, and share our own personal and professional experiences. And our aim is to really connect with people out there who might want to reach out. I will put the link for your book in the description below, and where people can find you and where people can find us. Who knows, maybe we can look into holding a little retreat, online retreat, and you know, we can see how it goes.
I really, I think we talked about this. I mean, there is so much that can be done, and it's a way of, you know, sharing resources. And
Yes.
for people who are ready, I mean, my business name is called Ready to Make a Change. It's
Okay.
people are ready, we are there available. And of
Yes.
course, we are committed to having a better world, to
Absolutely.
participate.
That is the plan. That is the plan. You know, leading humanity to a place of more, you know, peace and transformation and healing and connection and meaningfulness, meaning, you know, being in a more resilient and in a way that we can own our own creativity and our own realities and make the changes that needs to be made, and make this world a better place. That's
Pretty
that's
much so. We, you know, ultimately we have a choice.
that's the idea.
So
Absolutely.
becoming aware of how can we choose the life that really works for us.
Yeah. Choose, you know, choice is everything, really, isn't it? And even, you know, whether people choose consciously or unconsciously, it's still a choice.
And
I
I
think it's
say to
Jean
my,
Paul Sartre who said that we are cursed with freedom, because at the end of the day, whatever we choose, it's still, whether conscious or unconscious, is still a choice.
exactly, I say to my client, you may, you know, not choosing is a choice.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. So
Thanks.
thank you for enabling me to participate and to have this conversation with you. And I really acknowledge and appreciate your contribution and, you know, your commitment. So thank you very much.
Yes. Okay.
Till next time.
See you next time.
Thank you.